Hi, in this video I'm going to quickly demonstrate how to connect your water pipes on your brand new washing machine. Right, this is where I will connect the cold, this is where I'll connect the hot. If possible, try to fasten your hoses here first and then the other side by the washing machine. That will give you some room to work with. Right, the first thing is to just check if it can be threaded directly onto the threads that are already there. Be careful not to cross thread it. Right, so I've ascertained that this will be able to thread onto that. The only problem is, as you might notice, it's quite loose. Look, if I do a couple of turns, I've already done a couple of turns, and look how loose the nut is. Yes, obviously if I tighten it a bit more, it might seem like it's tight, but actually it's still wobbling even though it's quite tight. So what has happened here is this galvanized fitting here is not quite right for this plastic fitting. So I need to use some plumber's tape, PTFE tape, to go around here just to make the fitting a bit better. If in your installation the threads mate perfectly, for example, here are matched fittings and it hasn't got much free play and I haven't even tightened it that much, then that would be great. You don't need the PTFE tape. Now some hoses look like this. This is from a Speed Queen and it's got a steel nut which gets fastened on over here. And even this one has quite a bit of free play. So in this case, it would also need some tape or some hemp. Right, now just inspect the fitting. This particular one has a bit of a nipple here. It's a bit jagged, and that is not going to be good. Because what happens is this gets tightened onto that, but inside here is a rubber washer. So what happens is it will leak a little bit until the washer has molded according to this. So you'll just help it if you just make this completely flush. So all I'm doing is I'm just taking a file and just smoothing out that rough part. Sometimes it's a bit rusted and that's why it gets a bit rough or jagged. That nipple is now gone and I just take some 200 grit sandpaper and I just smooth it out. Now all I'm going to do is take some PTFE tape and go around here in a clockwise direction. The reason I'm going clockwise is because when I fasten the pipe, I'm also going clockwise. Right, when using the PTFE tape, make sure that you've removed any old PTFE tape and make sure it is dry and clean. I've only wrapped it 4 times. Depending on your installation, you might need more. I hold the nut in place. I'm trying not to cross thread it. It should go on quite easily. And straight away the nut is getting quite tight, but not so tight that it's not going on the threads. Always check the condition of your hoses before you reuse them. They should still be quite elastic. There should be no slits in them or fine cracks. It should be smooth, and if I squeeze it, it should bounce back into its original shape quite quickly. These hoses are still fine. Some pipes have an indication, like there is a red stripe, so I know that the red must go with the hot outlet. Right, if your pipes are brand new, it's probably got a brand new washer and the filter's clean. But if you are reusing your old washing machine, just have a look at the little filter inside there and just the washer. If there's sediment on the surface of the filter, just blow it out, clean it, and then return it into the hose. Inspect the condition of the washers. Some washers are rough and some are smooth. Right, the washers should be elastic, they should have a bit of a thickness, and there should be no indentations on them. In this case, I've checked the rubber washer, the filter's clean, and now I can rotate this onto the outlet over here. I'm showing that it's not tight yet, but the nut here is not wobbling. But the nut is also not tight. So what I'm trying to say is that you mustn't put so much tape that the nut is battling to get on. Now I make this hand tight. I do not need to use any tools. What makes this watertight is the washer inside here pressing between this plastic and the metal over here, which is why I made sure this was smooth and not rigid. Right, once you've made this hand tight, you can go to the other tap and follow the same procedure. Now, as stated, if you are using these type of pipes, you follow the exact same procedure. It also has a rubber washer inside there, and it will also need the PTFE tape. Now, in this case, there's a ready tape here. Best practice is to always remove what was there before and install your own. Right, there's only a little bit of the threads exposed, and I've located a thinner PTFE tape, so I can just rotate it here using the thinner tape. Right, I'm busy with the cold side. This happens to have a blue line here, so I know it's the cold side. And I quickly check the filter and the washer are fine, and I just rotate this like this. Right, I go hand tight. Now that I've done this side, I go back to the other side and retighten it. So this has been sitting here for a bit, and you'll find that you could probably do another quarter turn. Yeah, there we go. It's actually turning. So what's happened is the rubber has seated and it has allowed me to do another turn. Now on this side, after a few minutes, I just do also another quarter turn, or however much it allows me to turn. These are now both tight. Right, over here I have my two hoses. The red line there goes with the hot. So I just make sure that the washer is in place and it is still in good condition, which it is, and now I can tighten this. I hold the pipe when I tighten this nut, otherwise this happens, and we don't want that. It'll put unnecessary strain on that bend, and also it'll get in the way of this inlet. So holding the pipe, supporting it, and tightening this, also hand tight. Sometimes it's useful to use rubber gloves when tightening this if you can't get a good grip. I do the same with the cold now. Now when tightening all these hoses, it's best to do it by hand. Rather, do not use tools like this. It tends to over tighten them, and sometimes you even find the plastic splits. If you have a very weak hand grip, then yes, I suppose you could use a vice grip. Just be careful not to over tighten it. Right, now that the hoses have been fastened on both sides, I can open the water. Quickly do a leak test. I take my finger around here and I feel if there's any water and any water on the pipe. Nothing there, nothing there. Right, so there's no leaks. If you do feel drips of water here, just see if you can tighten it a little bit more. And if it is still leaking, check your washer has been seated correctly. And I also do a leak test over here. Run my finger around here and over here, here and over here, and there is no moisture. Some washing machines are connected like this. There's the cold, there's the hot, and you can see that this has a metallic connection. I do not use any PTFE tape. I just make sure that the washer is renewed and install it onto the plastic threads. Right, sometimes when you move the machine towards the outlet, you might find that the pipe has a bit of a twirl or a kink. Just release the nut, let the pipe settle, and then tighten the nut again. We don't want the pipes to be twirling under pressure. Thanks for watching, and cheers.